Do you trim wet or dry? If the answer was dry, then this is the trimmer for you. Hey everybody, my name is Paul. I work for Kierton and we make the Twister line of products. Today we're going to do a deep dive on the BatchOne. The BatchOne was our first ever dry only batch style trimmer. The BatchOne was designed for large scale cultivators who like dry trimming and a batch style workflow. Unlike many of our other models, the BatchOne does not have the proprietary helix blade and bed knife system or require a vacuum for operation. Let me give you a brief overview of how the BatchOne operates. Super simple. You would take your dried flower, put it into the tumbler, set the timer, let the trimmer run, and unload your flower. Now let's go over the different parts that make up the BatchOne. We'll start up front here. Attached to the frame on the bottom are 360-degree caster wheels, so meaning you can turn the trimmer in 360 degrees. These also lock, so it makes it super easy for transportation, but then again, once it's transported to where you need it, you can lock that in place and it's not going anywhere. And down below here, we have two 17-gallon food-safe trim bins. Inside, which is really the main component of the trimmer, is the tumbler, and we'll touch a bit more on that later. In front here, we have the control box. So the controls on here, you have an emergency stop, you have a timer, you have a start button, and you have a stop button. Also with this control box, it is removable from the trimmer, so it does have a release button here with the handle. We'll get a bit more into that later once we get into the breakdown. Finally, on top, you have a lid, so this just keeps everything contained. Safety is obviously the #1 priority here. Now let's touch on the lights inside of the trimmer. So as you can see, there are lights coming from inside. We have an LED strip up here and one up here. We designed this with good reason. Reason being is that you want to be able to see what's happening throughout your trimmer. Yes, you can see your flower at the ends of the tumbler, but you really want to see what's going on throughout. Without the lights, it can be difficult to see what's happening in the middle of the tumbler. You want to be able to see what's happening with all of your flower. Now let's talk about the tumbler plug. That is this piece here. It's really important. It is what keeps your flower inside the BatchOne. It's super easy to install. It has 3 slots on the plug and then 3 bolts on the end cap of the tumbler. Basically line up the slots and then turn it the opposite direction that the tumbler is spinning to lock it in properly. Now let's take off the lid and start looking inside the trimmer. Super easy to do, 1 Allen key. There's a bolt over here. Remove that. And the lid comes off. So now let's talk about the internal components. Inside of the trimmer, we have a brush, a tumbler, and what we call the saddle. That is where your cutting action occurs. The saddle wraps around the tumbler, and when your leaves poke through, that cuts it off. Now let's break this down a little bit so we can see even more inside. So to start off, to break it down, what you want to do is begin by removing the tumbler end caps. So 1 on either end. This is what keeps your product in while you are trimming. Next, I like to remove the control box. It is the one component on the trimmer that can't get wet, so I like to get that out of the way first. Start off by unplugging this plug over here, which illuminates the trimmer inside. Press the release button and lift up on this lever. From there, tilt forward a bit, pop it up, and put it aside. All right, next, let's get the brush out of the way. So this brush, we designed it to remove completely from the trimmer. Now, if you don't want to do that every time that you're trimming, you can just pop it up when removing the tumbler. So to do that, you pull this pull pin here, turn there. On this end, same thing, pull back, twist, and it'll lock so it won't fall back in. And then this just flips up like so. Now, if you want to remove it from the trimmer for cleaning, super easy to do so. Pull pin over here, a pull pin over here. Once those are loose, it'll release the tension of it against the tumbler. And then there's a pull pin over here. Pull that up, slide the brush, pops out like that for cleaning. Next up, we'll remove the tumbler. So first step in that is lifting up these tumbler guide rollers that are on top here. So what you do for that, it may look like you could use a tool on it. Do not loosen these bolts. All you need to do is push in slightly and pull up. That's it. From there, we'll loosen the saddle tensioner, and then we'll remove the tumbler. So I would recommend 2 people for this. I've done it before by myself, and we'll do it again today with 1 person. So typically what I start with is pull it a little bit on this side, lift up a touch. When you got it there, grab like so, and move it along the tumbler. Pull it out, and set aside. Now we can remove the saddle. Really easy, it just has hooks on this side and the lower side. Just pops right off like that. Put that to the side. We got the trim bins out of the way now. So these just slide out. They are fairly secure, so you might have to give them a little bit of a pull, but they are secure in there. All right, now that the trim bins are out of the way, let's remove the 2 baffles inside of the trimmer. The function of these is to basically guide any trim that comes out the side of the tumbler and direct it into the trim bins below. So these are fairly easy to remove. You can either slide them left to right, it doesn't matter, they'll come out either way. I'll slide it left here and then pull up on it, and that will remove. Put that to the side. Go to the other side on this one. Again, you can slide to the left or the right. Pull that out there. All right, now that the trimmer is all apart, let's talk about cleaning. Really easy to do. Everything is water safe except the control box, which we have to the side. What I like to start off with is taking a compressed air gun and just spraying out the inside of the trimmer, the trim bins, just get any loose leaf or keef that may be built up inside. From there, I like to soak the trimmer with Simple Green. We have a foam gun actually that you can put Simple Green in, attach to a pressure washer, and spray the trimmer. Let that sit for 5 to 10 minutes, and then you can hose that off or pressure wash it off. Always like to give it a last minute sterilization with some isopropyl alcohol, just wipe down all components. For cleaning the tumbler, this is a little user trick that we learned. If you put it back in the trimmer, once the saddle's out, and pressure wash it in the trimmer, that's a great way to keep it sturdy, and you can rotate it while it's in there as well, just hitting all angles of it. For the trim bin and the end caps, you can, similar process. Spray them out with an air gun, hit them with some Simple Green, hose it down, pressure wash them, and then ISO. Lid, brush, and baffles are the same thing. All pressure washer safe. I pretty much run the same process on the entire trimmer. Now, transporting the BatchOne from your trim room to the wash bay is super easy. Once the control box is removed, it will fit through a standard doorway. With the addition of the 360-degree caster wheels for easy maneuverability, it makes the BatchOne easy to roll wherever you need it to go. Now that we've talked about cleaning, I'm going to quickly put this back together and let's talk about the process of trimming. Now let's start on the process and operation of the trimmer. So really what you're looking for in your flower is squishy center and crisp outer leaves. Pro tip on this, if you can't trim in the same room that you're drying in, set the RH and temp in your trim room to the same as your drying room. On the BatchOne, it has 5 pivot points. So this is centered, has another one there, there, and then the same on the other side. So one there and one there. So the best place to start loading it, that I find, since the weight is on this end with the control box, is to load from the left. Just let that pin go. It'll kind of naturally drop like that. Once it is in the loading position, you remove the tumbler end cap, load your flour into the tumbler, put the end cap back on, and then return the trimmer to center by pulling this pin here. So make sure that's locked in. Now, your trim time will vary from strain to strain. It could range anywhere from 5 minutes to 15 minutes. I usually like to start on the lower end, around a 5-minute range, just to see how it's reacting, check the trim quality. Different strains will react differently with the BatchOne. Once you have found that desired trim time and you're done trimming, it is time to unload. So much like loading the trimmer, release the pin, put a bin underneath, and what you can do, if it doesn't all come out, you can just run the trimmer to get the excess out. And another tip I have while trimming with the BatchOne, while the flour is in the tumbler and trimming, every say 4 to 5 minutes, I'll pull this pin here and just do a little seesaw action on the trimmer. Just mix it up a little bit. Sometimes I find that with particular strains, the smaller buds will move their way to either end of the tumbler. I want to mix those back up just so that you get an even trim on all of your flour. Now let's touch on the saddle tensioner. The saddle, as discussed earlier, is what wraps around the tumbler and provides the cutting action. We designed our tensioner with super fine increment adjustments. Reason behind this is you want the saddle to be tight to the tumbler, but you don't want it to be over tight and put extra load on the trimmer. So really you just want it snugged up to the tumbler. So don't be getting your biggest guy at your grow to be reefing on the adjustment, over tightening it. All that will do is put extra stress onto the motor of the trimmer. And that concludes our deep dive into the BatchOne. If you have any questions about this trimmer or any of our other products, give us a call, shoot us a message on our social channels, or visit us online at twistertrimmer.com. I hope you enjoyed the video.